Welcome back to my channel. I hope that you are doing well today. And it looks like we are going to be getting into a quick update in regards to Andy Cohen and Leah McSweeney's lawsuit, the one that's under the umbrella of the Bravo family, of course. And I have done a couple of videos prior getting into some of the details and what was going on with this particular lawsuit. Now, as you know, that we've been hearing a lot of lawsuit conversations for the last couple of years when it comes to the Bravo universe, if you will, or Bravo-verse, as they may call it at times. And so this seems to be the latest right now that I think is continuing to move forward. I don't think that there's any others at this point that are moving forward. If you have heard of anything in addition to this particular case, and you know it to be some of the things going on with that, feel free to leave that down below in the comment section. But it looks like we have gotten to Leah's, day in court and some information in regards to how that went and how it's going thus far, and seeing where we go from here. So with that, go ahead and sit back and just hang out here with me, and we're going to go ahead and go through it. I have two part sharings for this, so both of them will have a little bit of information, obviously, as the same as the other one, but with a little bit more of a twist and probably some additional information. So I thought it was great to go ahead and just bring both of them to the forefront and, kind of discuss and chat about them. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the first part. And got a lot going on. So, according to Reality T, it shares that Leah McSweeney appears in court for first Bravo lawsuit hearing. It's finally happening. The reality reckoning has made its way into a courtroom thanks to Leah McSweeney. The Real Housewives of New York alum sued Bravo and Andy Cohen, claiming that they exploited her alcoholism for ratings and created an unsafe environment. Now, a judge is hearing her arguments to determine if the producers crossed the line or if this whole thing is full of hot air. Now, Leah McSweeney and Andy Cohen's case hits the courtroom. Well, according to a report from Page 6, the hearing over Leah's lawsuit kicked off in New York City on Thursday, November 14th. Now, Leah showed up in a gray suit, looking ready for business and eager to face off with her former employer. In addition to accusing the producers of taking advantage of her substance issues, Leah claimed that they would retaliate against her if she refused to drink. Now, on top of that, she also claimed that Andy traded DRUGSs with Real Housewives in exchange for favorable treatment. Andy vehemently denies those claims and tried to have this lawsuit dismissed. Now, the Watch What Happens Live host wasn't required to show up in court, but an attorney named Adam Levin was there to represent him and Bravo. Now, during the hearing, they asserted that they did nothing discriminatory against Leah. They said their interactions with her were an attempt to craft a message for the audience at home. In their arguments, they suggested that's all just a part of the creative process. Now, with that in mind, the Bravo side felt like their actions were protected by the First Amendment. They argued that Leah's lawsuit was an attempt to quash their freedom to create a reality show. Leah's lawyer, Sarah Matz, didn't agree with that notion. You are not allowed to breach people's rights simply because you're pointing a camera at them, Leah's lawyer argued. There is a difference between crafting a message and making a show that you think people will watch. The hearing is set to continue next week, and Leah is hopeful that in the end, she'll be awarded damages. So we're going to definitely continue to stay tuned for the updates. So it looks like now at this point, Leah is in there. They are meaning business. Her lawyer is rearing and ready to go. And it looks like First Amendment is the claim that we're going with as far as what tramples over that or not. There seems to be a lot of confusion about that. I think over the last few years or so anyways when it comes to that. So now we're going to see how that plays out in this particular court case and how much of a ground that you can stand on with that particular notion. So let's go ahead and get into the part 2 of this sharing and get a little bit more insight of how things went on in court as well. So now, according to COHENLEAH.com, judge weighs merits of lawsuit alleging Real Housewives creators ABUSED cast member. Now, of course, considering that you want to keep things YouTube friendly, there are some words I may have to change around a little bit. Now, the lawyer for a former cast member of The Real Housewives of New York told a federal judge Thursday that the First Amendment cannot shield the show's creators from a lawsuit alleging that the show's participants were subjected to a rotted workplace culture. Now, attorney Sarah Metz said the lawsuit brought by Leah McSweeney earlier this year should advance to the stage where evidence can be gathered for trial. Adam Levin, a lawyer for defendants including entertainer Andy Cohen, one of the show's producers, and the Bravo channel, told the judge that the lawsuit's allegations were protected by the First Amendment and that it should be dismissed at a stage in which the judge is required to assume the allegations were true. Now, the judge did not immediately rule on the future of the lawsuit, which seeks unspecified damages for mental, emotional, physical pain, along with impairment of life's joys and lost future earnings. The lawsuit filed in Manhattan federal court alleges that McSweeney, who suffers from alcoholism, was pressured to drink booze on the show and was retaliated against when she wanted to stay sober or was denied reasonable accommodations to aid her efforts at sobriety. It also alleges that the defendants employed psychological warfare, intentionality weaponized to break Miss McSweeney's psyche, particularly when she was intimidated and prevented from visiting her dying grandmother. And if you had watched the show, I believe it was the last season that the OGs or the alums from Real Housewives of New York was on. I believe that is when we got to see on camera what was going on in that time frame at the loss of her grandmother and the struggling that went on during the show in the taping of it. So of course, she's basically saying that they intentionally weaponized to break her psyche in order to prevent her from visiting her dying grandmother through threats of cutting her pay or to fire her if she left the filming location. Now, they knew she was trying to be sober, Metz told the judge. The show is not called The Drunk Housewives of New York City. Now, the judge, who said he had never seen the show, asked each side numerous questions and seemed inclined to, at a minimum, strike some allegations from the lawsuit that pertained to events on camera. Levin told him the lawsuit should be tossed in its entirety. He said ruling in favor of the claims made in McSweeney's lawsuit would basically stop some television and Broadway stage shows if the First Amendment did not protect the producers of those shows. Now, particularly when it comes to a reality television show, the cast member becomes the message of the show, and you can't separate the person from the speech, Levin said. Now, what are the limits a director can do to induce the behavior the director wants? The judge asked as he questioned whether a director could demand that show participants not sleep for 2 days before filming or subject themselves to a physical ASSAULT just before they go on camera. Now, Levin said there were limits to First Amendment protection for the creators of a communicative show, but he said they were narrow in scope. McSweeney's lawsuit, he said, did not fall within the narrow exceptions, such as when a producer might commit a criminal felony offense during the production of a show. Now, I will say, for one, that I would imagine that they're definitely going to make sure that they're going to cross all their T's and dot all their I's to the best of their abilities as far as production is concerned, in order to shield them from any types of issues that may come when it comes to filming. And so this is no big surprise to me, and probably shouldn't be any big surprise to you either, right? So it is going to be interesting. You know, one of the things that I guess go back and forth with when it comes to Leah's situation. And this by no means means that she should not have the ability to voice whatever her truth or her situation, her experiences were, if they were in fact, you know, done in ways that were not correct or unethical, illegal, or whatever the case may be. I do wonder that, you know, for individuals, did she have an opportunity to see the show and what the show was like before she actually stepped foot onto the franchise? That's always something that perplexes me when it comes to some individuals who come new onto the show after a franchise has been on for many years and basically say, you know, I never did watch the show, I didn't pay attention to it, but all of a sudden, you know, they're on the show. So I always find that to be quite interesting, how you don't have any real recollection or viewing capacity before going onto a show that, you know, you come onto, and it pretty much takes over your life for the most part. Another thing that I think about when it comes to Leah is that, you know, one thing that Leah knows is that she does struggle with alcoholism. She was very open about that on the show for at least the first season and a half of it that she was on. So there was a lot of conversation and storylines surrounded that, as well as what she was doing to try to combat those situations. We also saw her doing converting in her religion as well. And so we got a lot of, I would say, behind the scene type of feeling about what was really going on with Leah at the time. So I do wonder, even though, Leah at the time, and I would assume she still is now, if you know differently, please feel free to leave it down below in the comment section. But I believe that she had owned a clothing line, and how she was doing with that clothing line, or clothing store rather, how she was doing with that store. I don't know how well she was doing with sales or not, but it did seem, at least at the time, that it was fruitful and the endeavors, and that, of course, being on the show would definitely give her more exposure to that business. But never know sometimes how things wrap up. Now, of course, the show also had a hard time during taping of the time frame in which we all felt the world was coming to an end. So that also precipitated, I believe, in my thoughts anyways, the consideration of looking to revamp and change some things around. It was obviously very much dark times that we're still dealing with to this day, and will forever for some people, for sure. And it kind of did spill itself over, obviously, in production, as well as far as what you were seeing. And at the end of the day, I mean, we're all people. Everyone was being affected in some capacity by what was going on at the time. So with Leah's situation, and it seemed to be such a tumultuous and vulnerable space for her to be in, the fact of wanting to consider to move forward in this type of franchise always does, bring curiosity to me as to why you'd want to continue to place yourself in a position in which you felt that it wasn't one that was for your better good, especially if you are, struggling with substances of any type, or any type of issue, whether it could be mental health struggles or anything of that nature, anything that would cause an issue for you. I wouldn't know why you would want to continue to pursue that. Now, some will say, well, look, the money was the issue, right? It was brought up in these sharings as well. So then that goes to say maybe things weren't doing so well on the business side. Maybe things weren't going so well on her personal financial side, in order to feel that she was strapped amongst doing this particular showing for, continued on. Now, all that being said, there needs to be rules obviously in place. There has to be things in place. I know that there was a push from Bethany, I believe, in regards to union representation. I don't know where that's going at this point, but there was a huge push about the fact of, those individuals who are doing reality TV shows, how protected are they during these shows? And there was a huge uproar. It went on for quite some time. And then from my perspective, it seemed like it quieted down quite a bit. So if you know any updates to that and you want to share that below, go ahead and feel free to do so. Because at the end of the day, regardless of whatever the structure is when it comes to the employment element of a show, or just a position in a workplace at all, discriminatory practices and those types of things are just simply not allowed. And therefore, if it does occur, you have the ability to then go make the steps in getting that rectified, and have a way that you see fit, or that you try to work out in order to become whole from whatever damages occurs from that. So this will be an interesting situation, considering the nuggets that we know about this case, considering the individuals that we know about this case, and just the undertone of what we're going on in today's society when it comes to these types of things. And so I'm definitely going to be keeping up to date with this case, because I am very curious to see how this kind of, plays out in the court system, and what, if any, damages are actually going to be shared and provided for Leah, if she will prevail in this case, or if Bravo will. And I think there will still be more discussion for sure, either way this decision goes from now on, and it'll be interesting to see how this will shape the other franchises as they go on to their filming endeavors as well. So with that being said, I appreciate you so much for being here. I thank you for your viewing and listening support as always. And of course, if you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and go ahead and become part of the family. part of the community, because I would so love to have you. I would so appreciate just the communication back and forth, talking about these types of things, because there's just so many things going on in our world today. And sometimes you need a respite from the real crazy stuff in order to just kind of talk and chat about other things. So I do hope that you did enjoy the video. Definitely please go ahead and give the video a like as well, as I would truly appreciate that. Definitely make sure you keep your all notification bell on as well, so that way you will not miss any of my uploads and any of the conversation and chat that we do over here, because as I like to share my thoughts, I love to hear yours as well, respectfully, in the comment section below. So again, I think that'll about do it for this video. So I'm going to bid you adieu. It will be the last video for the upload for today. So again, make sure you have those notification bells on so you don't miss the future ones coming up. And again, I thank you so much. And you know what? Until next time, you take care and be blessed. Bye.